Right, there we go. So, welcome everyone to our first virtual surgery. So this is our first one, so please bear with us if there's any technical difficulties. Thank you to those of you that are here, and thank you to those of you that have submitted a question prior to today's surgery. We do feel surgeries are a great way of staying in contact with residents of Houghton Regis, and they give a good opportunity for any residents to ask questions to us. And today's surgery is based on a single issue, which is community assets, as you all know. And firstly, we would like to introduce ourselves. So I am Councillor Slough, Abby Slough. I am a councillor in Tye Farm Ward, town councillor. So Claire, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us. I'm Councillor Claire Coppleston for Parkside Ward.
Martin?
Thank you. Thanks all for coming. My name's Martin Kennedy. I'm councillor on Tye Farm Ward. I'm on the planning subcommittee and also on the neighbourhood plan steering group.
Thank you. And Tony?
Hi, I'm Councillor Antonia Ryan. I'm Central Bedfordshire Councillor for Parkside Ward. Thank you.
Brilliant. Roberta, you're here as well, aren't you? Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Roberta Armitage, and I was Labour's Parkside candidate last year, which was unfortunately postponed.
Brilliant. Thanks, Roberta. Thanks, everyone. So as you probably noticed there, none of us do represent Houghton Hall Ward, which is the ward that Windsor Drive sits in. However, we recognise that it's an issue that affects the whole town, which is why we're getting on board with it, and we're doing as much as we can. Just a note before we get started, a surgery isn't the only way you can contact your local councillor. We will put our email addresses in the chat on the screen for anyone who wants to get back in touch after this surgery or talk about any other local issues. We'll drop it in the chat for you to email us. Also, if you're not sure who your ward councillor is, please ask and we can signpost you in the right direction. And if anyone present today has any follow-up questions, please put them in the comments box and we'll get back to you with a written response. So let's get started with the first question, which is actually a combination of two questions from different residents. We said we'd combine where possible so that we could answer as many as we could in the hour that was given. So firstly, a resident has sent in a question regarding the vote that took place specifically about Windsor Drive, and they asked why the latest vote removed the leisure centre and the field on Windsor Drive as assets to the community. They've explained that the field is in use all year round by all ages of the community. And one resident asked, given the amount of housing already being built in Houghton Regis and consequently the loss of green spaces, why does the council feel it's not necessary to protect the land on Windsor Drive, considering without this protection there is a possibility it could be turned into yet another housing development? The other resident asked, can we do anything, presumably to stop the developments from happening? So Martin, I think you're going to kick us off here with the vote from the Monday meeting. I think it was last week, wasn't it?
Yeah, thanks, Abby. Right, the meeting nearly 2 weeks ago now decided on whether or not to reapply the community asset status for Windsor Drive and the leisure centre was considered by the subcommittee, and the decision was made not to go ahead. There's several reasons for this. The first is that the community assets legislation offers scant protection. It does not prevent development. What it would do would be to give the landowner, in this case Central Beds Council, a requirement to inform those that have registered a community assets interest and give them the opportunity to purchase it at market price. At the council, we discussed this. We realised that we would not have the funds available to make a purchase and therefore decided that it would simply be a meaningless gesture. Not only that, it would only come into effect if Central Beds, the owners, were going to sell the land, not develop it. So it doesn't offer any protection in the current circumstances for what we know are Central Beds plans. The Houghton Regis Town Council were told this, that there was going to be some development on Windsor Drive back in 2017, and we had a meeting with the then Chief Exec of Central Beds Council. Now, it was explained to us that under the current planning policies, that if Central Beds do not identify sites, and they go through a rigorous process to eliminate those which have particular special interest, that they would, if they didn't develop, then central government would, and that would take any consultation away from us. So the community asset approach was deemed not suitable for the council to take. There is one other thing, and it's become apparent by us not listing it. We have energised the community. Now, you might well have thought if we listed it as a community asset, job done. We don't have to do anything now. The council are going to do it all for us. The council can't do it all for you. So in one respect, although people disagree with the decision we've made, it has had a very positive effect in galvanising the local community into trying to protect this asset. And the way that the public engage with council is, Central Beds Council, is different from the way the town council interacts with Central Beds, which is one of the reasons why we are offering all our possible support to campaigners, community campaigners, because that gives us a layered strategy to get the best possible deal for people in Houghton Regis. Does any of my colleagues wish to add to that? Have I missed anything?
No, I thought it was brilliant, Martin, what you just said. That I'll fully agree that, you know, the second part there. So, can we do anything? Well, we certainly can, and us as a group are, like Martin said, offering campaign advice, strategies. We're working closely with a small group at the moment. Details to be confirmed later on, but you know, there is a group, a very large group of residents who are concerned, and a smaller group who are pushing action now. And you know, we can offer as much support as we physically can there, and we are. So you know, more to be confirmed at a sort of later date. But you know, we are doing as much as we can to support here. Does anyone else wish to add in there?
Could I just add, Abby, that we have tried to be open, honest and transparent with the community throughout this process. We all live in Houghton Regis. It matters a lot to us. I use Windsor Drive myself personally quite frequently. I only just live on Parkside. But on the basis of the knowledge we've been given, it would have been disingenuous at best, or downright dishonest, to pretend to you that we could use something like community asset status to prevent development over there. Thank you.
Thanks, Martin. If we're all happy, I'll move on to the second question. So, just finding it. So the second question is from a resident who has expressed concerns about the supporting infrastructure surrounding the 100 homes on Windsor Drive if they were to go ahead. They've mentioned the extremely busy GPs where people struggle to get appointments, the oversubscribed schools, crime rates in the local area, the leisure centre facilities that are in desperate need for renovation, and congestion on main roads were all mentioned as problems that would get worse the more that land is built on. So the question from this resident is, what infrastructure is being proposed to support the additional families that the 100 new homes would bring if they were built? Who would like to start us off on this one?
Should I jump in on this one, being Central Bedfordshire? If anyone don't mind. So we don't have an application at the moment, so we don't know what is planned. It's all very much a bit of hearsay, and we know that Central Bedfordshire have something in their mind, but there's no concrete document yet that sets out what would come as a benefit for having this land. The conversations that I've been party to, which have been quite informal, have been that this land would have the 100 social homes, a mixture of social and affordable homes, along with a bit some green space and an activities area for the community as a whole. What we do know, and we all live in Houghton Regis, we all, you know, we all use these infrastructure, we all use the doctor's surgeries, the infrastructure is not good enough. And we do fight, you know, I fight at council, my colleagues fight at council for better infrastructure. We know about the doctor's surgeries, but the big infrastructural needs will come out of the HRN1 and a HRN2. So the new bits of land that's being developed at the moment. That would bring us a hub in a few years. We need people in the houses to generate the release of Section 106, which is a development agreement between the developers and the council. And it says that, you know, if you let us build on your land, if we buy this land, we will give you X amount of money, and we will build you a doctor's surgery. Some of this is what we've managed. The Labour Party have fought really fiercely for is the new school to come forward, and that has happened. So if you look at the Kingsland site, Kings Houghton Academy, that closed down, and that had a huge impact. And we was fighting behind closed doors and openly for this to come forward to kind of alleviate some of the problems there. So we have got the new school, we have got a hub coming, which will condense most of our doctor's surgery into one area. The leisure centre has been the most contentious part over the last few weeks. We are, in the whole of Central Bedfordshire, we were due the next leisure centre. And it was taken as a decision at council, Central Bedfordshire Council, that is, that we would get put down the list until more homes are brought forward. So the more homes are built, the more money we can release. And Central Bedfordshire felt that at this time, it wasn't a decision that they wanted to give us the money and get that money back. So they've put a political decision was taken, and that will now be Leighton Buzzard will get a leisure centre. Now, I've got a full budget, annual budget meeting next week on Thursday, where I'll be contesting this. But I am one Labour councillor amongst a sea of blue. You know, I'm openly speaking that this is a disaster and this shouldn't be happening to us. We are the ones that are always affected. We are the ones that always come last on the list. And, you know, it is not good enough. Our infrastructure needs the Section 106, which will bring forward, and this is a legal document, is not good enough. Fulfill all our needs now, let alone going through a pandemic and what our needs could be in 10 years' time. You know, a lot of our money was spent given to the Woodside link. We spent millions and millions of what could have, you know, another doctor's surgery, another school, another, you know, stuff that we need as human beings went on that road. And that was a political decision. And, you know, I don't want to make this about politics, but it was a decision out of our hands that took place at Central Bedfordshire. And now we have a road instead of the general human needs stuff we need. So going back to the actual original question, we don't know yet what will be the benefit to us if the application is brought forward for Windsor Drive, and that would be determined then, and that would be a conversation between the developers and Central Bedfordshire. I hope that answered some of the questions.
Neil, you've got your hand up. Is that based on Tony's response there? You've got a...
Yeah, it's just right. Just as a side question, what actually have they given us in the last 20 years? Because in terms of community things, all I can think of is we've got Houghton Hall, which I think was mainly lottery money, and a bowls club. And you know, considering like we chuck 9 million quid Central Bedfordshire's way every single year in council tax, I don't see that we're actually getting very much value for our money. Or everything seems to be spent in Dunstable, and we're sort of treated as like a housing estate, whereas all the facilities go to Dunstable. You can say about health hub and things like that, but I mean, a police station, a fire station, a health centre, we've got nothing here at all. And the fact that they're wanting to build more and more houses without actually seeing what the impact is. We don't know what our demographics are as an area. Are we going to be full of younger families that move into the area? Is that going to change? Is need for sports going to change? Is need for health going to change? We don't know. So just throwing more houses into this area just seems like a bad idea, and it's something we should be stopping.
Yeah, I agree. We don't have the school, you know, that costs the council £23 million. That would have been, you know, a big achievement. The independent living that is going up in Bedford Square, or the village, for anyone that's
yeah, but that's houses. You look at everything, it's houses, houses, houses. You know, and that's all we seem to get here is houses. I'll give you something if you let us have some houses, and then they say, actually, soz, we can't give you that thing we promised you. It's like we keep thinking that we're going to get something in return, and we never do, because they keep reneging on everything they say they're going to do. In which case, isn't sort of like, you know, this thing expecting things to be different when history shows us that every single time when it comes to giving us facilities or anything community based, it's just, well, soz, we can't do that. So why don't we say, well, actually, no, you can't have your houses until you can demonstrate that you can actually give us community things, because we're owed so much over the last 20 years. The amount of money we've put into Central Bedfordshire's coffers, we're better off actually Brexiting from Central Bedfordshire and spending the money ourselves on our own community, you know.
Don't get me started on that one, Neil. I'd love to. Like, show me where the ballot is for that. Yeah, no, I agree. We are the last on the list, but it is, you know, Section 106 document, and I know I keep referring to this. We need houses built. We allowed the developers to land bank, so the land was quite a lot cheaper back when the developers bought that. They've now land bank it, so houses are becoming more expensive. The houses don't have in line with our wages in Houghton Regis. You know, they're too expensive to what the average wage is. So I totally agree with you, Neil. Like, we need more, but we need the houses to come up to release some money for the existing area. And you are right in what you say when you, you know, we have been overlooked and we've been fighting this. But we can't stop development.
So hang on, can I argue one thing there? You say we need houses. We're going to double in size of HRM1 and HRN2. Exactly how many houses do you need before you can get a community facility? You know, we are doubling. We'll be the size of Dunstable, but you know, by the time they've done 9,000 houses, you look at that, they've got a high street, they've got a nightlife, they've got great sports facilities, they're getting a health hub, they've got, you know, so many things there, and we have nothing at all. You know, how many houses have to be built? Because they keep saying, oh, we'll give you something, and we go, what is it, 9,000 houses they're going to build, and what have we got planned? Nothing really. You know, why do we assume that we need more houses? That's an assumption based on what? Do we need more houses? Who says we need more houses? We're doubling in size already. That is a silly growth rate without actually putting in infrastructure. That's irresponsible planning, really, to say you're going to double the houses of an area and not put anything else in.
But I just went for a list of what they're putting in, and I do agree
that's minimum, isn't it? A new school must be minimum viable. What they must do a lot of what they do is what they've got to do legally. You know, that's all right. We're going to make it a massive area with no school. I bet there's some sort of rule somewhere that says they have to do a school, and that's why they're doing it. Well, anything that they don't have to do, they don't do. And that's where, as an area, we need to be telling them what we want. As a group, as Houghton Regis, what have we actually asked for? What have we asked for as a town? I can't see we actually get together and ask them for anything. We let them tell us what they think that we need. We should be getting together and saying we need this, we need that, as a group, and we don't do that.
Yeah. I think your point is clear, Neil, on what you're saying. Yeah, and I totally agree. And we have seen things fall through. You know, we in the medium term forward plan, we was due a leisure centre. A decision has been made at Central Bedfordshire Council that we will no longer get that now, and that will be in the future. So I will be going to annual budget and I will be contesting that as much as possible, and I will be shouting and screaming until my face is blue to make sure that that comes forward. You know, these are political decisions as to what, when and where, what we will get, and we have been fighting for every single thing this town has got. It's not as, and you are right, we do get the bare minimum. A school would, you know, we needed a new school. That school was not, it was condemned, our school. It was condemned, and pupils were sent far and far away. Their education was not put first. And I've done me and a few other councillors, my colleagues here today, done a campaign. We spoke on radio. We went out to everyone that we could, and we apologised that this has happened to children's education, and they did not care. And what happened? You know, the school was closed and kids was moved around. We knew about this for years, and we kept going on and on. The local plan says that we need 20,000 new houses in Central Bedfordshire. 2 new villages will be made up. We are going to have, you know, if you look at Leighton Buzzard, they also doubled in size. You don't get government money just to do like, oh, we want this now. It has to be around buildings. The only people that have money is developers, really, unless you're really successful in winning a bid. And that hasn't come through at all for us. We had a housing infrastructure bid in approximately 2017-18, excuse me if I'm wrong on that, and it was for £128 million. That's what our area said it needed to improve itself. We lost that bid. Central Bedfordshire lost that bid. You know, we have fought tirelessly for this, but we can't stop planning unless it's for a legal reason. I can't say, and, you know, I'm not the ward councillor to be able to call this in. You know, my ward is Parkside. We can't say we don't like this development. We're going to have to give real legal reasons as to why this development can't go ahead. So it would be, and I'd love to say here today, it's going to be really easy and we're all going to kick up a fuss and, you know, wave a banner and it's going to be fine. But the legal reasons are so fluffy because the government's on the side of building at the moment. It was a national framework that we would get more houses. So some of the legal reasons, I've just called an application for a contentious application in my ward. It's going to cause lots of disruption and we've called it in for access rights. That would be a legal reason that they would see.
Wouldn't, in terms of, I mean, like I say, we're at the point where we haven't even built or populated half of these homes yet. So we're at the situation where we just don't know what we need. We're assuming that we don't need Windsor Drive for leisure or sports or recreation, but we don't know what our needs will be because we're growing too fast as an area. So can that not be put forward in the fact that we're planning to build on a piece of land and we won't, if you get rid of it, we won't be able to use it for recreational. And that's obviously in our neighbourhood plan. The top 3 things were, I think number 1 was walking, number 2 was cycling, and the 3rd was football, in terms of what people are interested in locally. If we get rid of all that land, then there isn't, you know, you can't get it back once it's built on.
Yeah, you are right. And I think at the moment we've got two pressing issues. One, the fact is we've got the globe. Everyone's telling us that we need to get more fitter and we need to be outside more. And we've got a pandemic and people like to use our open spaces at the moment, which is now Houghton Hall is over capacity. I was there today. I was also at Windsor Drive today. And we also have got a pressing issue of infill sites being given up to Central Bedfordshire because they need houses as well. We do have a lot of people on our lists, mainly elderly residents who need homes. It is going to be a hard sell to keep trying to push this forward, but
okay,
we do that together.
I don't want to hog the thing. So I mean, the only one point I'm going to make, just one point, is that if we want to keep it, I think it needs a car park on there so that you can have it gets more use locally. That's the only thing I'm going to say. I know people will think that's an unpopular thing, but for group sports or things like that, you can't really use it for group sports because people can't actually come together and use it. If we were going to use it, I think it needs a car park. I'm not going to say any more because I don't want to hog the meat.
Yeah, you know, I think yeah, the thing the Labour Party has said that they will do is push for a full consultation on this piece of land to make sure that residents' views are listened to. So if you're a resident, you know, put that in as one of your things that you think that would be brilliant on there. The thing that we've got to try and work out as a Labour Party and, you know, as councillors is trying to get, you would say that, and just going back to a contentious application I've got a group of people are telling me that they don't want access through their streets for this building site, and it should come around this other side, which would mean there's no houses there and it's woodlands. Brilliant. And then I've got another group of people saying that we shouldn't build on woodlands because it's for our you know, it's for our badgers, it's for animals, you know, it's great. I believe in that too. I love animals the same as the next person. It's trying to weigh up what will benefit the majority of people, and that's not an easy sell sometimes, and this is where hard conversations need to happen.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Neil. I think that was a good discussion. Carol, you've got your hand up there. Do you want to come in on this topic?
Yeah, I just really wanted to just clarify a couple of things, and I'm sure you're all aware of it anyway. Basically, the new school, however wonderful and however needed it is and was put off, it's only replacing the school that we lost anyway. I'm not saying it's not going to be bigger, but it's still replacing. And also, you've got these 8,000 homes, God knows how many children, that are going to need, coming into the area, that are going to need school. So that isn't something that was never going to happen, and it's not, they're not giving us something that we haven't had, it's just replacing something we have had and that we were in need of anyway. But also there's not enough teachers to fill the school or enough doctors to fill the doctors' hub. So it's lovely for them to say it, and they all sit in their offices and they think that this is the best thing, and some of the hub's a really good idea. However, if you can't get enough doctors or nurses to run it, what is the point? You know, we've got doctor surgery that's got loads of doctors in it. Well, some of them are part-time, some of them are on this, some of them on that. I can't get an appointment, and they're still taking more people in because they get more funding the more people that they take onto their books. And it's the same with us, or you as councillors. The government saying, well, or the local council are saying, we'll give you, you know, we have to have all these houses before we can even consider giving you anything else. And I think that's what's most really, really frustrating. And I understand exactly what where he's saying, that they're saying, oh, we'll give you all this when you have all the houses. But the time we built all the houses, it's too late to say we need this, with that, because we've lost half the things that we would have been able to use for them to give back to us. So I'm just agreeing really with everyone. And the other main thing I wanted to say is that you're sitting here as Labour, that's great, and Tony said about, you know, you're one Labour councillor at that meeting, and I don't really understand the thing of all this, but why aren't the Conservative councillors for Houghton that people voted in standing there with you, fighting for their constituents? She's laughing.
There are none.
Yeah, there are no Conservatives. So we've got Central Beds, 2 in Houghton Hall, Lib Dem, so Councillor Goodchild and Councillor Farrell. So they're
So
both.
even them, in their own right, why aren't you all, and I know it's political, and because why aren't they all say, oh, as a community counselling body, for Houghton, whatever constituent thing they do, saying, look, we're all fighting for the same thing, we're all the same community. And I know you're laughing, Jenny, because it's not that easy, and I understand that, but as a member of the public, it is so frustrating. Yeah. This is why people get so angry.
Yeah. Martin, you've got your hand up there. Do you want to come back in on Carol's point, and then Tony?
Yeah, just what I will say, Carol, councils can be factional, can be oppositional, but this council in the last 2 years, and certainly the planning subcommittee, have been united in defending Houghton Regis's interests as best we can at town council level. We do try, we might have slightly different views on how to improve Houghton Regis, but we're all for pretty much improving Houghton Regis. The difference why we're getting so involved in this is because we felt it necessary to speak truth, and an uncomfortable truth, which meant that rightly, you've asked us to justify what we did, and that's why we're coming out and we're saying it. The easiest thing in the world would be to tell you that we'll give you all you want, but that would make us liars. And I don't do populism, and that's what we're doing. We're just, it's not comfortable for us to do this. You love to be loved as a politician, that's why you do it. But for us, honesty, integrity is the core to local politics. If you can't tell the truth, you shouldn't be here.
Right, and I applaud you. I said the other night, and I applaud you all for sitting here and the other night taking it, and this is what you're there for. I know, but it takes thing, because as much as they keep saying to me, go for the council and everything else, I just couldn't do it. So I applaud you all for that. But from a member of the public, like my neighbours who don't particularly get too involved in it, all they see is that you putting things forward and us not getting anything. We not know that's not to say you're not fighting for it, but again, like one of my neighbours said, well, why do we have a town council? All we can do is put things forward, but we really have no say, because they just do what they like anyway. That's what they, the lady across the road was saying to me, and I said, well, I don't think it's quite that simple. However, as a member of the public, that's how it seems, and that's why lots of people don't want to get involved, and lots of people don't come to the meetings, because they think, what's the point? What is the point?
And Carol, that's exactly, sorry Tony, before you speak on sort of the central base point of view, that's exactly why we want to hold more surgeries and hold as many surgeries as we can, because there are these opinions from the public and residents that someone can say, oh no, that's not quite right, but we want to be as open and transparent as possible. We want to hold these surgeries so that we can tell you what is going on, and we will endeavour to do as many of these as possible so that we can meet as many residents as possible and explain behind the scenes what actually is going on. Tony, did you want to say a bit about the central beds point of view and how you're the only Labour councillor?
Well, no, I think I've made that point clear. The alternative, Carol, is that we don't do anything and they do what they want. And we have fought, and it seems that we only get 5% of what we originally said. But if we don't, it would be a lot worse. So we keep fighting because we need to grip onto everything. And just to go back on the school, it was in tatters when I was there, and that was long time ago. It had £1.1 million it owed. 1.1 million. It was not viable anymore. The academy wanted to shut it. We was in correspondence at 11 o'clock at night trying to get before huge meetings would take place between the DFE, the academy, and Central Bedfordshire, and they wanted to close it. So why should we? Yeah, you are right. We needed a new school. They had no interest of building another one. And the conversations that we were having, it was like, well, we need the people to come in before we build that school. And it was like, no, we don't. We know that these people will be coming, and they was delaying because of the developers, and it was a genuine mess. And we managed to get that school brought forward, and that was a huge achievement. That was a huge achievement, because that school will be running under capacity. And how schools run now, which I don't agree with, is that you get paid for the pupil. So this, whoever takes on, and I do know, the academy that's taking this school on will be losing money every year until them new people come. But that's been an agreement. And we've got to generate more people to come in. So there'll be Luton residents that always also be looked at to bring their children in. However, that's the way it is. We have to keep fighting and fighting and fighting. And whilst it feels like we don't get anywhere, there are these little things of hope and glimmer of hope that we do get. And the community has been absolutely brilliant. You stopped the leisure centre being closed when Central Bedfordshire told you it was being closed. And that was because there was a huge campaign that was run, and the residents said no. If we had something of that size and of that passion, that would be great. But as councillors, if we say no, without the community backing, it is a hard fight.
And just one very quick thing, and I don't know if it's diversity, we were talking about the town crier the other day, very briefly, on that main meeting. I mean, it may well be something that you need to look at doing within the town crier. Just because every resident gets them on the computer, not on Facebook or whatever it is, just to explain sort of what's happening and what you're fighting for. And also, I know you've achieved with the school and everything, but maybe go into a little bit more of the really positive things. And I know you sort of do it, but not in a way that the general people around here would sort of understand. I don't know if that makes sense, or you already think you're doing it. I don't know, but that's for another day. But I think we were talking about the town crier.
You're right there, Carol. And before COVID, pre-COVID, we used to deliver approximately 9,000 leaflets each. We do it quarterly throughout the year, and we got into quite a good rhythm as a Labour group of making something called the Labour Rose, and it would be published on our website, and we'd do some leaflet drops as well. And in that Labour Rose, we would say what we're fighting for or against, and say what we're doing at the time. And then sort of COVID hit, and you can't deliver leaflets, you can't door knock. But as a group, we were quite active actually in doing that, and it's something that we will definitely be going back to after COVID as soon as we can. But also what you said there about the town crier, it's a good piece of feedback and something we can definitely look into doing. And if people sort of didn't know about our Labour Rose, then that's something we need to look at as well. And we'll definitely look at sort of getting those published again. The better. Obviously, you need manpower and you need feet on the ground to do that. So it is something that requires a lot of people on board with. But as a group, we've got a very good base of people to help with that. But thanks, Carol. They're really good comments. Neil, you've got your hand up. Is that based on this topic?
Yeah, it's just really sort of quickly. See, just because obviously I've worked with you guys for sort of football sort of side of things as well, but just a comment is it's really difficult if you want to achieve something in Houghton, because you've got to go and talk to you guys, and then I've got to go and talk to the Lib Dems, and then I've got to go and talk to someone else, and to get anything done. And this is what we're saying, is that when something like this that's important to the town, what are the chances of you guys uniting with other parties and say, do you know what, let's put the politics to one side and let's get together. We've got strong feeling in the town that we don't want this piece of land built on. All right, so what is the possibility of you guys getting together and doing something like this with other councillors, so they can have like an open talk and debate about things? Because it's a divided town, right? It makes us weak as a town, because there's no overall dominant group when it comes to voting for anything. So really and truly, to get things done as a town, we need to be working together, not separate from people. I just like to say, I mean, with the football side, I've come to you guys before and you've been great, you've supported, but then I'm having to go and talk to Sue Goodchild, and then I'm going to have to talk to this one, and then I'm having to talk to that one, and it seems as though, why can't we all work together to make the place better?
Thanks, Neil. Tony, did you want to come in first and then Martin respond?
Yeah, just to say that I'm the chair of the partnership meeting, which is the joint committee between Central Bedfordshire Council councillors and Houghton Regis Town Council councillors. And Neil, you would have known because you was there at the meeting, is that I've committed to having Windsor Drive on our agenda, where we all have an opportunity to discuss that, and residents have an opportunity to come in at the beginning, and you spoke as well on this at that meeting. I know there's different opportunities for at town council level, but there are things that we do agree with. I don't think there's ever been a time, regardless of what colour you are, that we've not said that there's a problem with infrastructure. So I'll hand over to Martin, who will probably talk from the town council point of view.
Thanks, Antonia. Yeah, basically, Neil, you may be basing some of your perceptions on the previous council, which was quite divided and very divergent on how they thought it was best to move Houghton Regis forwards. We are much better constituted this time around to actually take the town forward. There is significant agreement between the two main parties that make up 12 out of 14 councillors. So we are going forward in a united way now. And as I've said previously, on planning, which is the most important one to do with this particular discussion, there is very, very rarely any disagreement on planning. We all want the best for Houghton Regis, and we've all got a very similar vision of what that is.
As opposed to what you said regarding sort of opening it up for a conversation, we as the group don't have any objections to that. And like Antonia said, it's on the agenda item for discussion at the partnership meeting. But also, again, could be something that we look at. But these suggestions are great. So thank you guys, because we offer any ideas like that. So thank you for that. Shall we move on to the next question? I think we've got a couple more. So the next one. Okay, a resident has asked, why are our councillors allowing buildings to be constructed on every small piece of green space? There are enough new developments being built around the Woodside Link Road, Linmere, etc. I think we've sort of partially covered this. Does anyone want to come in? Oh, Antonio, is your hand up for this one, or is it up from before?
It's up from the before, but just to quickly say, it's probably what I said around the local plan, and there was a call for infill sites, and council looked at what land they had. I don't know if any other councillors want to come in while I try to work out how to put my hand back down.
Martin, did you want to say anything about planning, our planning committee?
Yeah, as I just mentioned previously, we every bit of development that occurs in Houghton Regis has to come past the town council. However, our role is merely advisory. We can make objections, but as Tony said earlier, they've got to be within a statutory framework. We can't just object because we don't like. Now, in the last 2 years, we've become much better at identifying where there are legal problems, and we've developed different tactics. We've retained a planning advisor, so if we've got any technical questions, we can ask the planning advisor how best to deal with things. But there's other little tactics. So infill, where you've got these little bits of green spaces where the developers want to come and put another few houses in. We always say to the developers, okay, then go and consult with the local population, the community, and that normally puts them off because they just want us to agree, and then they've got to pay a company. So that's been quite a successful tactic in delaying or preventing infill. But the larger picture, and this large development, we are increasingly finding that our objections, especially things like infrastructure, like you say, parking, are rejected out of hand because there was a presumption to develop. There was overdevelopment, as we call it, along the high street, and we put in there is absolutely no parking here. And the planning inspector came, had a look, saw Morrison's car park, and saw Cumberland Street and Manor Park, and said there's plenty of parking, which is clearly nonsense. But there is a presumption to develop. So we can put these objections in at town council level, but it's advisory. The nuclear option for us is to get the ward councils to call it in. Then that has to be discussed not just by officers at central beds, has to be discussed by councillors. And obviously councils being elected try to be popular. But these are again the facts of life. It's not. It is a political point. I'm sorry, Neil. We've got a government that is disproportionately made up of property developers, and they make laws that suit property developers. It's what you'd expect. If we get in, we make laws that suit workers. It's what we're there for. But that's a national picture, and we're doing our best in our limited way at town council level planning to hold things up.
Thanks, Martin. Does anyone else want to come in on that one? No. Okay, we've got 2 more questions from one resident. So the first one is, what is Central Beds Council or Houghton Regis Town Council's green infrastructure provision? Who would like to come in on that one?
Do you want me to?
Yeah, you could kick us off there, Martin.
I mean, this is the key thing, as I said earlier. We feel that the community asset approach was futile. The neighbourhood plan approach is one that gives us more leverage at town council level. Now, when they did the original calling for sites back in 2017, we didn't have a neighbourhood plan in place. And this is one of the reasons why we retained the planning consultant to help us develop a neighbourhood plan. Unfortunately, one of the key components of neighbourhood plan is that there is wide consultation with the community. It has to be done face to face, as well as through paper, through internet. Now, as we were getting to the consultation stage, COVID hit. However, it is a draft document. So this is where we get some leverage now for development taking place there. Now, in the neighbourhood plan, Windsor Drive was identified as a key part of what we call a green corridor, which is a strip of green land that runs right through Houghton Regis from Dog and Duck Park, or used to be the public right of way from Chilton Cross, across those fields, into Dog and Duck Park, into Windsor Drive, then across Houghton Hamlets into Houghton Hall Park, then onto Dog Kennel. And that is a continuous strip, a green corridor, which we say is unique and extremely valuable to Houghton Regis. It's in our town plan about, town vision about having a healthier and active population and community. So again, we've identified walking, cycling, other forms of physical exercise and sport. So we've done, these are all in place. They're in place for the whole town, but we have identified key sites where we expect this to take place. And Windsor Drive is one of them. So these are areas where it's not just a gesture. These are actual documents that we've submitted, that we've done the consultation with in many cases, and are there on Central Beds Council's desk, if you like. So there is a difference between 2021, 2017, because at that time we didn't have a neighbourhood plan. So we are hoping that the work we've done is going to start paying off very soon.
Brilliant, thanks Martin. Is there anyone else who wants to come in on that one? Or I think the resident is here. Are you happy with that response? Or do you want Carol? Hiya.
Hiya. No, that's great. And again, these are things that as members of the public we're not aware of. And I understand COVID's come in and everything else, but again, you know, these are things as residents we'd like to know that yes, this is a unique thing, and maybe it's another thing for the town crier thing to put in, that, you know, how we just have this unique green corridor, and our plan is to try and do this with it. And so when things like this come up, because you've obviously set this out before we heard about the Windsor Drive thing, council people can say, well, actually, hang on a minute, the council had this in plan or had this, we can come and talk to you about it. Does that make, because we don't know, I didn't know about that. I read about it, hence my question, and I wanted some clarification on it. But other than that, I was unaware that was all part. So to most, if you ask any residents, they'll just say, oh, that big square piece of land there. They don't understand how it links to everything else.
Yeah, thanks Carol.
Okay.
Louise, have you got your hand up?
Yeah, I have. Hi
Hiya.
everyone. I'm a resident of Houghton Hamlets, and I have been for a number of years, previously living in Bidwell Hill, so I've been a resident of Houghton Regis for a long time. Listening to what Neil raised and also what Antonia raised, it does feel like Houghton Regis are always like the poor relations to Dunstable, and it always has done. You know, I've born and bred in the area in Dunstable originally, and looking at what Martin said about the green corridor, I think that is something that as residents we need to get behind, and I'm not sure how far we can go and how much is legal, but to actually, like, you know, like for sale board type signage on you know, proper protesting, you know, I don't know how much we are able to do or how much is legal to do, put those sort of signs across the green, you know, save our space, you know, you see it without, you know, being too political on with all of you and everything, but can we do things like that? Is that something that's legal to like do save your space signs or something? And obviously I go to work and everything, so there's always limited time to how much time you have to do things, but as residents I think we do need to get together, and I thought I'd see more residents on here, to be honest, today after it was promoted on the Windsor Drive group on Facebook. Not sure if there's much else I can say, really.
Thanks, Louise. Yeah, good comments there. I don't know if you've all seen the similar campaign in Dunstable where they've done something similar with the AstroTurf, and they've drawn on that with, I think it might be toilet roll or kitchen roll or something white anyway, that says save our outside spaces. And yeah, we know the person leading that campaign quite well. You're right, it is something that we need to come together on. You know, we can hold as many surgeries as we need to talk with residents about this sort of thing. And you know, if there's only 5 here today, I haven't counted, I think there's roughly 5. You know, next time there'll be more. And and the first one is always a little bit quiet as well. Just from other things that we've done, we've noticed, you know, the first one's a bit quiet, and then it gets progressively more people coming on. Martin or Claire, did you want to say anything about, you know, the types of campaigning that we can do, and whether that's sort of like Louise mentioned, whether it's legal and, you know, where we can go on. I think Tony's just trying to jump back on, by the way. Her internet's dropped, but she is coming back.
Okay, yes, I'd like to say a few things. So firstly, those of you that don't know me, I am a new councillor, and one thing that I really want to stress is, as individuals and as the Labour Party, we really do care, and we want to work with the community. We are listening, and we are doing everything that we possibly can to support as much as we are able to, and to work towards proactively achieving great things for Houghton Regis, as all the other councillors have said throughout this process. One of the things that Martin brought up earlier was the Houghton Regis vision. And I think, Carol, you had some fantastic points, you know, and I think that's something that we as a council can take on board in terms of how we reach the community and how we get that information out to everybody. Myself, just saying a little bit about me, I am very, very passionate about mental health, well-being, local activities, youth services, services for our elderly and our vulnerable. And these are all things that I feel very passionate about and want to see develop, and as equally as the Labour Party councillors here today. And we are proactively really pushing for additional services. We're working really hard to put more youth services and more youth activities in place. We're working towards creating the first dementia-friendly strategy to have a dementia-friendly town, so all residents are inclusive. Better parks, better spaces. We are really trying, and I think sometimes, as you said, Carol, people don't always see how hard we work or the dedication that we put into our roles, and you know, we have very limited capacity in what we can do sometimes. So I just want you to know that we are really listening, and we are, you know, pushing forward with everything that we can, and we do care, and we are definitely trying to put those services and those much needed activities and things that are needed in the area, in our town. I do work in Houghton Regis, I live in Houghton Regis, my children have grown up, I am very passionate about this. So I just wanted to make sure that, you know, we are listening, and I really do appreciate you all attending today, so thank you very much.
Just very quickly, I have no doubt that being councillors, you have to be dedicated to what you do and passionate about it, otherwise you wouldn't do it. There would be no point. So, you know, I commend you all. I've said that before. I just think if you were all known collectively as Houghton Regis town councillors as a whole, as generally, and you, even if you walk from door to door, rather than say, oh, I'm blah blah blah, I'm the Labour candidate on the Lib Dem candidate, or I work for Houghton Regis, I don't think you get.
Oh, I think maybe her internet's dropped, or is it me?
Working for the community as a whole, if that makes sense. I know different, because I come to some of the meetings and I'm proactive in some of it, but a lot of them aren't, and they don't, because of that. They just think, oh well, there's no point. You bicker about between yourselves, it's just a lost cause. So I just think, like Neil said, if it was one town, like everyone kept saying, well, actually I'm here for Houghton, I'm canvassing for Houghton Regis, the community, the town, you would get a lot more interaction from the public. That's just, I just think that would be anywhere, not just Houghton Regis. I think that would be everywhere.
We do have one more question about sort of mental health, and there's another question coming up. I am conscious, Neil, you've got your hand up. Did you have something to say on this?
Yeah, it was really sort of for Carol, just to let you know that I've worked on the open space as part of the neighbourhood plan. So if you do have questions, I was sort of more on the sports side, and someone that I was working with was working more on the nature side and things like that. But it is just to sort of back up what Martin was saying there. I've put into the chat the actual call for sites link, which has the document for the planning stuff for when they looked at Houghton Regis in 2017, and it does make reference to neighbourhood plans in there, and it also does sort of make reference to neighbourhood plans that are in draft, should we say. So they will look at things like that, and that we're hoping that will add some protection, even though it may not have been formally agreed as an area. You know, that is something that we have been looking at to try and protect that piece of land. In fact, try and protect all our pieces of land, because as I've mentioned before in previous meetings, we're well aware of Central Bedfordshire's like build mentality, and we do need to stop that. And I guess just sort of from my point to the council, and this is just sort of the first thing is that fair play, because you're here talking to us. And the Houghton Hall people aren't. So that in itself is a bit of an issue for us, is that we're not getting the chance to speak to Sue and sorry, I can't remember the other person. Yeah, Yvonne. We're not getting a chance to actually speak. Why are we not speaking? Why are they not here? I know you're saying it's a Labour thing and blah blah blah, but what I'm saying is it should be a Houghton thing. And I've been on little walk bys by people from Central Bedfordshire that came to look at Windsor Drive, and one thing I noticed is that Sue was there at that point, and we walked around Houghton, and they were saying, oh, we can build on this, we can build on that, blah, blah, blah. But she stopped. She said, I can't go any further because this is not the edge of Houghton Hall. But it seems to me that makes us weak as a town, the fact that because I'm Parkside, I can't really do too much because of Houghton Hall. And I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I just think, you know, if we all united, if we had something like this with Sue and Yvonne and basically the town council, we can say, look, this is important to us, right? We want to save this bit of land. How do we go about doing it? You know, do we need to put some parking or something on there? I mean, for me, I'd be quite happy if we just said, look, got rid of the people doing the brook and use that bit that they put down there as a car park, and then job done. Where, you know, life's sweet. But it seems that to do the important things for this town, we need to unite rather than sort of stopping at these limits, saying, well, I can't do this because I'm on this ward and I can't do that. It's like we should come together and really, you know, defend the town and things we need, and you know. Thanks, Neil. Yeah, you're 100% right, and it seems to be you know, the same sort of message that we do need to unite, and it comes back to Louise's question there. You know, what can we do and how are we going to unite? Louise, did you want to just come in on that? See, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, what Carol and Neil said, like, right, we need to come together. And I think, yeah, you're Labour, which is good, you are talking to us, but as Carol said, you don't, or Neil said, you don't represent Houghton Hall, which is what we are. And it is hard, you know, working in a team if you don't agree with each other and you all disagree with each other in a big team. But there does need to be some kind of community here, I think, and Houghton needs to come together, and us as residents need to come together somehow. Yeah. To stop them building on every single little piece of green space that's there, just because you can. Central Beds could sell it and rate, or if they're going to build their own house in there, 100 social housing or whatever, but then it doesn't need to be there with all the thousands that are going up around the area already. Yeah, you're right, Louise. And I'm sure, Martin, when you talk in a second, you're probably going to say the same sort of thing. The town council, you know, we do work together. We do actually work very well as a team, as opposed to, like Martin said previously, the previous council. We work well with the Lib Dems, we work well with the Independents, and actually we very rarely do disagree on things. So I think they'd be open to doing something. You know, we can certainly go to them and say, you know, a similar sort of surgery, but with everyone involved, and see where we can go from there. Martin, did you want to talk on that point?
I was just going to say, pretty much so as you. We do communicate regularly. We do communicate in between individual councillors. We have leaders of the groups that talk. So, you know, I'm afraid you can't get rid of politics because we're always going to disagree on actually the best way of doing things. But what we are tending to find, we're much more consensual. That, you know, the points of difference are not enough to cause us to disagree. We can find, which is what politics is about, finding a consensus, about finding an agreement. And I'm reasonably happy that we're managing to do that. We do, you know, communicate quite effectively, and 99 times out of 100, we are in agreement. So, you know, there is hope that, although it would be difficult, I think, organising all of us, apart from as a council, to get together. But, you know, I did discuss this with the other groups about what we were going to do, and, you know, the town clerk had set up the ability for all groups to do it. So we're just hoping that everyone will take the opportunity. And I think if they do, you'll find there are little differences between us, very little difference.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. Shall we just do this last question? Because I'm conscious that it will get missed otherwise. So the last question was, do the councillors feel that there are enough sustainable communities for public mental health and wellbeing in Houghton Regis? I know, Claire, this is a bit of a passion for you, well, a passion for everyone, but I know you sort of work in this line, don't you? Do you want to kick us off with that? Do you feel there's enough sustainable communities?
Absolutely not. So I am very passionate about this, and everybody that knows me knows I am very passionate about mental health, well-being, not just for children, young people, but for older adults, community in a whole. And do we have enough services for Houghton Regis? Absolutely not, and it's not acceptable. And this is why I am really trying to push with our Labour councillors and with the town council as a whole for better mental health support and services. As I said, you know, we are really pushing in working towards our dementia-friendly strategy, more services in Houghton Regis. It has been brought to my attention that, you know, people have mentioned that there is mental health supportive services in Dunstable. Absolutely. But that's not in Houghton Regis. We want services that cater for our town, our community. We want to be able to provide services for all ages. So we have those inclusive services. We do have some mental health support and mental health services in Houghton Regis, but we need to build on that. And I think that, you know, together as a Labour Party, together as a council, you know, in our Houghton Regis vision, I think we are really making headway with that. And I think, again, going back, we are putting into place, you know, trying to work towards better services as well for children, young people, our older adults. So these are things that we don't have enough of, but these are things that we can proactively work towards.
Yeah, thanks, Claire. Tony, did you want to come in, or Martin, on anything about you know, what we're doing locally?
So as I banged on about earlier, I have the annual budget meeting, and I'll be fighting for our leisure centre to be brought forward, and that Leighton Buzzard don't get their one as quick as ours. But I'm also putting in that we would get, just to add fuel to the flames before we sign off, every time that a house is built, a certain amount of houses, you get a bonus bit of money from the government, and it's called New Homes Bonus. That money for Houghton Regis would be approximately £1 million. Approximately. It's done on a very a calculation. That money, and we thought this at Central Bedfordshire Council, and it was turned down. That I thought that it should just be spent on Houghton Regis. Central Bedfordshire has, you know, loads of things going on for it. That money, Houghton Regis, the demographic will be changing, and that we deserve to have that money spent on us. So at this month's council's meeting, I'm going to be asking, that was refused, by the way, and the money has been put in reserves, not to be used solely on us. I'm I'm going to be asking for £100,000 of that for an all-inclusive activities area in Parkside. I'm hoping with a lot of public support that I might get this through, because it's just a drop in the water of what we're really owed. There is loads of services that do happen at Central Bedfordshire. I sit on children's services. I'm passionate about children's services. I've been working passionately, and I've managed to get through by hook or crook eradicating children who live in poverty task force, which I will be sitting on as well, of officers and other outside partnerships. So I'm extremely proud that has happened, and we just need to push and push and push. But there are a lot of mental health services that happen with children, and I do have the link, and I'll share that with in the chat shortly, so that you're all aware, because there is a mental health impact training that goes on as well that helps residents. But like Carol said, the message is not out, and the more people that join up to these things, it shows that there is a need.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. That was really useful, and more details to follow on what Tony said regarding what she's proposing be on our website and Facebook in the near future. Martin, if you've got something.
Yeah, I was just going to say, this is one area where town council can do something, however small, and certainly for young people, older people, we're putting in facilities, you know, in our recreation areas. That's within our remit. That's what we get funded for. So our any activities that we're putting out now for children is for all abilities. So tactile stuff for people that have mobility issues. The play equipment is designed to incorporate all these people, and that's written into our vision. And it is, you know, it's something we're taking into action. So it's a very low level, but it's something we're trying to do.
Thanks, Martin. Carol, you've got your hand up, and then Neil.
Sorry, I feel like I'm keep coming back in. How this new Tony, this new housing bonus, home bonus that should have been Houghton Regis's, and they're keeping and reserve or whatever it is. How do we fight that? Do you know what I mean? As residents, we're, again, as community, we're unaware of this. And the same with the leisure centre. You know, I fought for that the last time. I use that with my children, my grandchildren. I use it. But I don't think any of the residents that aren't on Facebook or have access to this understand that actually what's happened. Nobody buys the local papers anymore. Do you know what I mean? You used to get the Dunsborough Gazette through the letterbox. People used to flip through it, and anything that was interesting, you make a comment on. But now we don't get that, so nobody knows about it. I don't actually think most of the residents around here realise what's happened to even the leisure centre.
Yeah, absolutely. The worst thing is that when you fight for something and no one knows about it,
yeah, exactly.
And then you're
that's what I'm saying. And that's
message
so
after message.
Because actually you're fighting all these causes, all of you and whoever else, and the general public, all you do as such is get abuse from people, or, you know, misunderstood, because actually nobody knew it was all going on. And what was the point in fighting for the leisure centre the last time if nobody knows? Actually, not we could lose it, but we have lost it as such, because we're now not getting what we were told we were going to get.
Yeah,
and
£12 million.
The new one, they're getting another one. They've already had some money on it.
Yeah, Flitwick and my point for me to Flitwick and Leighton Buzzard got more money than us. They've had more investment in us, and they got the new leisure centre when ours was next in the plan.
Exactly.
It was an absolute political disgrace that this is allowed to happen.
But
and
nobody,
the new home bonus thing.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
We've just launched. I put stuff on my Facebook. It's a bit like hit and miss. I'm not the best to do it, but but we've just launched a website and we've all committed to blogging a little bit more. It is one of these things of, because it's a party website, people don't like generally want to say, oh, I want to sign up to this. So it is hard because we are the party. We are the ones who's doing the work. So we are trying to get the message out.
TV, local radio, so that the community can actually know that we've been screwed over again for the leisure centre, and that they're actually building, they're going to try and attempt to build on that when we've got all these other things, and changing it slightly. COVID is a horrendous thing. However, it's something that will help with the mental health and the general vision of how we should be going, because of what the government have said about open space and not being able to get out, or that's the only thing you can actually do. So COVID possibly in a good way, a bad way, could work, has highlighted it all and work for the community. And for I can only say for Houghton Regis, because they're going to try and take more of what we need away again. Is that something that's...
Sorry, my laptop's gotten really slow suddenly.
That's okay.
I think it's totally giving up. Tony, did you want to come back on that, or I'm quite in mind we've got Neil's hand up as well. But yeah, you're right, Carol, with everything you've said. We do have our website, like Tony said, and we have recently launched it. And we try as much as possible to get what we're doing out there. But you're right, with COVID in play, there's a lot of things that we can't do that we would usually do as well. And you're right in saying that with the pandemic, the mental health facilities and funding should be increased dramatically after this. They're already looking at things like post-viral problems that you get, and that's just the start. Mental health, is going to need a lot of funding after this.
Yeah, but once we give up the space, or we don't be seen to be using that as a reason to keep the space, then we've lost it. Like Neil was saying, once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
They can't say, well, actually, you mental health, so we're going to try and do something else somewhere else. Well, that isn't acceptable, because they need it. If COVID hadn't happened, then you could say, well, we were unaware that these things could happen and it's going to happen or whatever. But now it has, and the government is so in thing, and maybe we need to get Andrew Salou. I know as a group we're trying to do that, but you as councillors need to, I don't know if that's something you do or if it's politically correct, I don't really know, but whether we need to get him more involved, and we need to get the local paper, just for the fact that nobody can help you fight your cause, Tony, if nobody knows you're fighting it.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right, Carol. I think, Tony, do you want to come in on that?
Yeah, as big as possible. But it's also like I've just ran a massive special education needs campaign, and we've got £1.1 million allocated from that campaign. It was an elitist service. I went on national news. I was forever on Free Counties BBC. It was a really hard campaign, and we had a really tough time getting the message across, of getting people engaged in Houghton Regis on this. So it's also a frustration for me. But just to go back on the mental health stuff, Houghton Regis was allocated £180,000. We then was put out to tender for to get people better connected, joined up some mental health service, and I'm just trying to think of the objectives, and it was a very big thing, and we now have time to connect in Houghton Regis. They've been publicising some of the stuff they're doing, looking at the problems within our area, and trying to connect a few of the things that are already going on, and work through the well-being of Houghton Regis. Their objective is to improve our health and well-being. you know, if you do try to get people engaged in it, because it's really important that the more people engage, the better outcomes, really.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. Neil, you've got your hand up on this topic.
Yeah, it's just general. So just a couple of points from me. The one is I think that everyone's answerable to someone. All right, and we have this thing like CBC is a big machine that's going to bulldoze and roll over everybody, and you can never get anything. But see, I don't see that. I see that if we raised awareness that they're treating this town terribly, they're not actually listening to anything that people want, they're not providing any facilities, then I think that they have to answer to someone, be it government, be it someone. And I think that's the way we should be looking, not just Windsor Drive, but the whole damn town. We've been given nothing. We've been treated poorly, and we should be raising awareness of that. Now, people would say that's futile, but I've had conversations with people that are doing the Linmere stuff, and they're very aware that this town isn't very good in terms of what it's offering. You know, they've come to me and they said, "What about sports?" I said, "Well, what about sports? There's nothing really here. We don't have a proper football centre. The doctors is rubbish and all that." They're trying to sell houses. How are they going to sell houses when it becomes actually quite apparent that there's nothing here and this town gets screwed over all the time? Now, I think that's actually quite a powerful thing, powerful message to actually take to people like CBC and say, well, you want to sell houses here, but you've got to make it attractive for people who want to live here. And you're not doing that because you're not actually giving us anything. You want to build on every open space we've got. You don't want to give us any infrastructure in return. I think there's a great opportunity to push back and put a lot of pressure on CBC and say, do you know what? You know, you want the houses built, but are you going to sell them if people realise what, you know, it's a poor place to live because there's nothing here for us. And people come here, and I've got people coming and joining football teams with their kids, and they're saying, well, where's your facilities? And we're saying, well, we don't have any. I know we're looking at Thai Farm down the line, but even that, you know, the original thing in our neighbourhood plan was build a football centre. This is going off topic a little bit, but build something for the community, so like a clubhouse and things like that. And all that already we're saying, oh, well, we can't afford a clubhouse. You know, it's always cutting back the very bare minimum that can be done for the town. I think that needs to be pushed back. I think we need to show Central Bedfordshire as being evil, if you like, the fact that they don't listen to anybody, they don't care about the community. And I think if we raise awareness, there's a lot of pressure there on them, because one, it makes them look bad, which they don't like. People don't like public as organisations, and two, it's not gonna help them sell the houses, which is council tax for them. You know, so that's my thoughts on it anyway.
Yeah, thank you, Neil. Does anyone have anything else extra to say? Otherwise, we've finished the questions that have been put forward to us prior to the meeting, and a few extra, which is lovely. So thank you all. We really do appreciate you coming on, because, you know, especially during the COVID times, we haven't been able to get out and talk to as many people as we would have liked. But these virtual surgeries are definitely, I think, a way forward for us. And we'll definitely look at, you know, trying to do one as a group, as a council group. Martin, did you want to come in?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you very much for everyone for coming. I hope we helped in some way, but for us, the most important thing was listening to you and realising that we're, as a team and as a council, we're not communicating our messages effectively, and that's a really important lesson for us. You know, as I say, we've tried it in the past with door to door and leafleting and that, and they're not possible now, but we've got to find other ways. And you know, really thank you for pointing that out to us.
Yeah. Has anyone else got anything to say before we close the session?
Yeah, sorry. I was just wondering when we're going to get notified of the next surgery, please.
Yeah, good question. So we'll have a quick discussion as a group, probably short term, like next week sort of thing. And then we will post it as soon as we decide a date that we're all free. And we'll think about whether it's a single issue or we open it up further. but it will be posted on Facebook, and we'll share it with Carol. A few people that we spoke to with you the other night, they managed to share it quite far and wide, actually. I think it had about 26 shares in the end. And we did have 300 people visit the Eventbrite. So the message did get out to 300 people, which is good. So yeah.
Because the thing, yeah, sorry, Abby. Yeah, because the thing is, Carol doesn't live very far away from me. I live in Halley's Way, and then she lives in Longbrook, you see. So any information that she would like to pass through, I'm here at number 2. So because I can see what goes on in the field almost every day, you know, and people do use it for their dogs, you know, and because the brook is being built, you know, they need it because they're an intermediary building. They would need it for their mental health, you know. Everybody needs green space, and so do the seagulls, by the way. You know, because they need to mate, and that's where they find it.
All right, yeah, that's great. Thanks, Patricia. And as soon as we do have any further details, we will get them out to people. If you would like, I can send you an email on the email address that you contacted me on. The emails will be removed from my contact list anyway, as per GDPR rules and regulations. So yeah, just let us know. I'll put all our contact details in the chat now, the conversation on here. You can get them from the Houghton Regis Town Council website as well, and we put our own website in there for you to keep up to date with the blogs and posts that we do.
Thank you very much.
But yeah, thank you all for your time today, and we'll see you in the near future, I'm sure. See you later.